All right, it looks like YouTube is picking up. Should be on the air. We are. So we are live and on the air on YouTube and Twitch. Welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a Thursday evening. We're here mainly to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services. If you do have any of those, you can always feel free to join us at our IRC chat at foolishtechshow.com. We'll be more than happy to have you participate, and we'll interrupt whatever we may be talking about to focus on that instead. Just keep in mind that any opinions expressed here are the opinions of the individual that expressed them, and we'll probably just be filling the air with shop talk if we don't have anything specific with our products to discuss. Hold on one second though, Michael. I want to.
Oh yeah. Once we get started, yeah, absolutely.
So I did have one big announcement here. We got the final CryptoPrevent manual for the white label creator added to our page here. And we also updated the menu structure to show off the CryptoPrevent technical documentation, make it easy to get to. So if you go to the CryptoPrevent menu and then hover over technical information, that'll give you the specific documentations as well. So the technical information page, I'm probably going to keep it as is, where it has all of the stuff on it, the release notes, the manuals for each version, and the additional documentation from prior older versions. And then we'll have the segregated ones, and probably our next focus video, which I'm going to be working on tomorrow, will be for the bulk creator, and then we'll do a segmented video on the white label creator. So we'll have all that information there and available and ready, and hopefully we'll help some people out there. So just want to throw that out there. How is everybody else doing on this Thursday?
Oh, pretty well, thank you.
Pretty good.
Good. Well, Phoenix has got quite a few links for us in the chat. Welcome, Phoenix. Thanks for joining us. And Michael, you said you had something you wanted to talk about first, so.
Oh yeah, Phoenix. Yeah, 1 second. We'll get to your links, but I was elated when I found out yesterday, and I just noticed it yesterday. But it looks like, oh yeah, it's the same day it happened. They came out with. I'll post this. I'm not in the chat just yet, but I'll do this very shortly. They came out with the new version of LibreElec. Version 8 was released. Now, the big news with that is, of course, anybody on any platform, pretty much AMD, Intel, and ARM, including some dedicated boxes, and Raspberry Pis for that matter, can now all use this, and it's released. It's no longer in alpha or beta. I had been in alpha for what seemed like ages, and then to my utter surprise, a week or so ago, they released a late beta that fixed the problem that they were having. They had released a beta for everybody else, but the my particular architecture, the ARM V8 64-bit ARM, with my Odroid C2 was not supported, and it took them a little while to work out one remaining bug, and they did so. They released that beta. Things looked good, and just like they said, within a relatively short period of time, I think it was actually like 10 or 12 days, but after that beta came out, they released this. And I've already put it on, and they did make some nice improvements. All the stability issues, even though they were relatively few and far between, seems to have been completely resolved. It's a pleasure to use. It's based on a Kodi 17, the Krypton version. Now that has been out and stable now for a little while. So it's a really strong platform is what I'm going at. And if anyone has one of those single board computers, whether it be Raspberry Pi or anything else, including up to 64-bit ARM, you can now take advantage of a stable platform for streaming and for HTC type work, HTPC, home theater PC, yeah, that type of thing. So please take a look. And I'm really a huge fan, and I was upset with the OpenElec group because they were not going to support the platform that I had chosen, which I believe to be a better one with more performance than the Pi for this particular purpose for streaming and movie watching and whatnot. So they kind of ticked me off with that, and if anybody else feels the same way, LibreElec is just as strong otherwise. So I would consider you to take a look.
But it's interesting that you brought that up, because I actually saw some reports today of people having problems with the Exodus plugin, which is the less than reputable stream options
That may be.
like Cody so much about.
Sure, that may be. I know Exodus is a popular one. I personally do not use that, so I have not been affected by that issue. And the plugins, the add-ons that I do take advantage of are not seemingly upset about this update or release. In fact, I have seen most in advance of this release, they had seemingly updated themselves already to support it, which I believe is how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, just thought I'd throw it out.
Very good, very good. So let's talk about some of the things Phoenix posted here, because he does have some interesting ones here. We talked about yesterday that the Microsoft did come out with a special update to fix the Adobe Flash Player vulnerability that was supposed to and was looking forward to so much with the February updates, which have been pushed back to March, but they decided not to wait for that. But he apparently mentions that 2 of the disclosed flaws have been left unpatched. So hopefully they'll add those into their belated February to March updates and keep people a little bit more secure. Then he has another one, don't fall for font wasn't found Google Chrome malware scam. So apparently they have some malware.
No. So it's this is basically a website asking you to download a font, and that's been possible for a while for websites to have their own fonts. But this is ransomware. This. I thought we somewhat covered this the other day. Let me see if I can find the article. It would probably been on Bleeping. Is my guess. If I can find that for you, I'll get you some more information about it in a second. But it's a bad form of ransomware that's taken a slightly different tactic than most, and may as a result may trick more users. Keep that in mind.
And then he also talks about another one that I was going to talk about today, which is Google announced that they achieved the first ever SHA-1 flaw, or sorry, SHA-1 collision attack. So you can see about that one, and I did skip over the other one that he mentioned, which was an 11-year-old Linux kernel local privilege escalation flaw had been fixed. All good things there, except for the SHA-1 collision attack. But Google's already stopped accepting SHA-1 for SSL, right?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
At least, so at least the SSL won't be affected. But know that if you've been hashing with SHA-1, that it can be bypassed now. So.
Yeah, and once these, it's theoretical at first until we actually, catch it in action, and then once they do, they also typically have ways to refine those types of things. So, it's possible you could see this be used for, attacks against, sites that don't have the updated certificates. But again, that would be Google's already taking that into consideration, and as are probably most of the other browser manufacturers out there. So I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue, but yeah, MD5 and SHA-1 are very long in the tooth. I think there are even theoretical attacks potentially against SHA-2, but it still is expected to be a long ways off before that happens. But then there's SHA-3 around the corner, so we'll see.
Then he also mentions that a hacker that knocked off millions of routers using MIRAI was arrested at a London airport. I think he was. I read briefly an article about it where he supposedly is the one that.
The Washington, the cameras in Washington.
No, this one is a different one.
Oh.
This one is one that took down an ISP in Germany, I believe, if it's the same one I was thinking about.
I thought I had the story about the London arrest of somebody involved in the Washington thing. Maybe, I mean, London's a popular town. I'm sure it would be impossible for two criminals to be there. But at any rate, it's glad that some of these people are tracked down and prosecuted, and hopefully this will at least lessen the DDoS attacks. I've also saw a story. I don't know if you caught it, but apparently our what is it called? We have a cybersecurity department apparently now in our government, and they're taking a very strong stance to get botnet attacks and are actually working to.
We've had one for a while now, haven't we?
I think so, but they're working on government backed mitigations of these attacks. So maybe if that gains traction, maybe we'll see either sites become resilient to these types of attacks, and so it won't matter anymore, or maybe it'll prevent more people from jumping on board this type of thing, because the attacks are obviously getting worse and worse every year. So we'll see. I'm going to look to see if I can find that.
Okay, we'll mute while you're typing. He also pointed out that Warner Brothers settled with the company that leaked Oscar screeners. So that's, I guess, good or bad. I guess that means the company paid money for leaking the Oscar screeners. So I doubt that Warner Brothers would have paid them. But he also posted that it looks like KB and KB for Windows 7 and Windows 8 are back. What are these KBs, and why should we care that they're back or not? I'm imagining there's something to do with telemetry and.
Were these ones that were pulled because of problems previously?
Let's see. I'm pulling up the article. Yeah, 2 patches implicated with various snooping proclivities.
But sorry. Proclivities. Yes, it's a real world. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So one was previously breaking installed SM bus controller drivers on certain motherboards. Interesting. And then he also had another article about Cliqz acquires Ghostery. I don't know what either of those two things are, so I think I somewhat know what Ghostery is. Let's check. Cleaner, faster, and safer browsing. So this is one of those privacy utilities. Michael, do you use that?
Cliqz? No.
Ghostery.
Oh, no, Ghostery. No, never heard of it.
Why? I don't care what that word means. You're gonna have to send me the dictionary word.
Okay. I didn't put it in the public chat.
Jerk. Let's see what else we got out here. There were some interesting things that came up. Oh, I thought this was pretty interesting. We had mentioned before that police were requesting Amazon Echo's recordings, and possible answers during a murder trial to try to attempt to connect the murderer. But apparently Amazon is standing up for the consumer rights and claiming that the Alexa recorded responses or recorded questions and responses are protected under the First Amendment, and they would need more evidence to be able to link this to the murder case that for Amazon to provide it to them. It said that it is well established that the First Amendment protects not only an individual's right to speak, but also his or her right to receive information and ideas. At the heart of the First Amendment protection is the right to browse and purchase expressive materials anonymously without the fear of government discovery. They also referenced a case in 2014 involving a Chinese search engine, Baidu, where court ruled that results returned by a search engine are protected by the First Amendment. And let's see, they said that Alexa's recordings and responses are subject to free speech protection under the U.S. Constitution's Bill of Rights, and that prosecutors need to provide more evidence that this audio is essential to the case. So we'll see how that plays out, but I imagine they have a lot of reason to make you feel secure about having this recording device in your home at all times.
Yeah, I mean, their sales are directly impacted if there's a lack of confidence in consumers over,
Although
whether.
it is possibly concerning that if they are forced to turn those over and we find out it's not just recording when you say the start phrase or the hot phrase or whatever that it's listening for.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that they don't want to do it because they have recording.
That's an interesting twist. They do go on to say
uploading it to them.
They do go on to say that that it is effectively like days worth of recordings, and so I clearly, what would happen? I mean, but they claim, do they not? Do they say they don't record you all the time? Because it sounds to me like they do record you all the time.
No, they claim that they only start recording and saving audio, and the only audio you have access to on your account is audio that it's recorded after you said the keyword. So
but
once
could
you say Alexa, then any audio after that point they have recorded and you're able to review in the app itself. But
well, I mean, if that's the actual verbiage, then that would just mean that the first time you said Alexa, it could record from that point till the entire lifetime of using Alexa.
No, I mean, they could just be recording all the time and uploading it to their servers. That's what I'm wondering, if that's the case, is that they don't want to do that because then they would be outed for it actually recording and uploading to Amazon 24/7.
Well, so there
in that case, it probably would be helpful for the murder trial that's going on, but it would also extremely damage Amazon's reputation and virtual assistants in general.
Imagine a jury having to listen to someone purchase possibly, let's say, intimate things online, or stuff that you just don't want to be for privacy concerns, nothing to do with crimes, but just you would not like your entire life to be out there for somebody. That goes back to a lot of earlier points, but there's some credit to what they're saying, though, and there does need to be protections for these devices, as we're going to have more and more of them potentially recording all the time. If somebody were just able to get access to what about the children's privacy? There's been big lawsuits about like teddy bears that record the kids and send off data to the companies and stuff like that. There's been a lot of issues of those things. What about Alexa when Alexa's used in a home with a baby? What happens then? I don't know. It's a tough thing. I think your point's very valid. I think the Constitution, our First Amendment, is needs to be at play in here. But you do have to wonder.
Well, I will go ahead and say that currently I do trust that both Google and Alexa are only uploading recorded snippets after I say their hot phrase, and that I do commend Amazon for fighting back in this situation and trying to protect the consumers from this action without due legal recourse. But it does hover in the back of my mind if they're doing this to protect themselves more, and possibly they have a lot more recording than they let on. Because the only things we have access to see that it's recorded and uploaded to them is stuff after we say the Alexa hot phrase, but that does not mean that they haven't been recording and uploading 24/7. And they got the bandwidth and data storage to do such a thing. So
I guess you can monitor the amount of uploaded data.
I was thinking about that, but remember that story? Remember that story we had about how little bandwidth or how little traffic they potentially send, or it was like 7 bits a second or something was enough for speech communication or something like that. Remember, it was
yeah, and I can tell you that Amazon Alexa, especially, I haven't looked too much into the Google Home one, but I know Alexa's contacting itself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like to the point where I went in and added DNS redirections for a lot of things so that when they're trying to contact Amazon, it just doesn't go anywhere.
It would be very hard to determine. The data is likely, encrypted in some way, and it would, and the volume isn't a dead ringer either.
Much, yeah. So it's definitely interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how this case plays out for more than one reason, I feel. So definitely something to keep an eye on and think about into the future.
Yeah, it's always important to look at things at both sides. I mean, on the surface, just glancing over this article, I'd say, hey, look, Amazon, you're looking out for everyone. You're doing the right thing. But Brantley brought up a very important crosspoint to that and counterpoint to that. And without just reading the headlines, you're not going to get that. So.
Yeah. Well, even in reading that whole article, you're not going to get that because they don't
mention that,
bring that up at all. And that was one of the points that came up in my mind is like, wait a minute. They're fighting mighty hard for this, and I mean, it looks bad against them fighting against a murder trial like this. They're kind of like on the wrong side. So like, I can see how it would be publicly beneficial for their product going forward in the future, but at the same time, it kind of makes me wonder because if they were ordered by a court to turn over all audio data they had from that device, and they turned over like 5, 6, 7, 12 days worth of full day audio recordings, that would kill it. But they would be required to do that if they had it on hand. So,
well, but now you got me thinking about like the email. There's if there are servers overseas, can we get a warrant to pull that data?
It depends. It actually depends on the country. There was actually 2 cases. Microsoft did not have to do it. Google did have to do it, or it was another company recently, a major company like that.
I had read the Microsoft one.
But they didn't have to do that, but I read another one following that. That
let's just say hypothetically, going from your point, what if, for instance, Microsoft was doing some sort of tax evasion or whatever? They just put all that data on their server in Ireland, and they could just be trying to protect themselves in the same vein that you're saying Amazon's protecting themselves. And sure, it looks good for the consumer, but maybe there's a bigger reason why they're doing it on top of that. But then that gets into conspiracy and lots of other things.
Yeah, I try to look at the bright side on the tech world, but the realist in me just keeps coming forward and being like, are you sure? You shouldn't be questioning this kind of stuff? But let's move on from that. I got one last one. We're very close on our 30-minute times that we're now going to be doing, and this one I thought was fairly important to talk about. GHacks had a very interesting article, one that has been touted in Linux and macOS for years, has been touted by Microsoft as a excellent mitigation for quite some time. However, no one that I know of really does this besides corporate level network environments, which is that using a non-admin account mitigates what they claim is 94% of critical Windows vulnerabilities. Um, and I'm not saying that it's I don't do it. I use an admin account all the time. I don't force myself to elevate whenever I have to do something administrative. Proctor, Michael, I assume probably the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Proctor, being in the tech industry, do you see majority of computers that you work on or have at business clients even running as administrative accounts? Or do you have businesses especially that are locking down their users and not giving them admin rights?
There are not a lot of them that are locking them down, especially the smaller businesses.
Yeah.
They seem to prefer convenience over security.
Yeah. Well, and I
But
mean,
I think they trust their employees more.
but it's not really necessarily a thing about trust, because it's easy to just click yes even when you're prompted to elevate, because it still does ask you at times to elevate. Like, you're running in a user context majority of the time. It's just being an admin, you're not prompted for a password you have to enter when you elevate to admin level.
Right.
So that's still there unless you go and turn off UAC, which a lot of people do as well. Actually, good question. Do you guys turn off UAC?
No.
No. I believe there's UAC has a place in security, and I mean, but that does beg the question, though. Why, and I do this myself, so I mean, I'm just as bad to blame, and I'm just as to blame as anyone else. But basically, I could, right? I mean, if I just wanted to run under a user context all the time and just enter in my other account credentials whenever I needed to. But I feel like repeatedly doing that over and over and over again just makes it, you start to not look at the, you know what I mean? So if something were popping up something that wasn't exactly a UAC prompt, would you potentially cough up your credentials thinking that it was, or if something tried to impersonate a UAC? It just, there's always a balance. And
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, Mac OS and Linux have taken that standpoint for several years now. I believe almost since both of their conceptions, they forced the user level context and force you to enter a password in to be able to run an admin context.
no, I don't find that to be inconvenient terribly and when I'm in Linux. So I'm not really clear what my Windows issue is then. So is it just poor presentation of UAC, or maybe a lack of a convenient sudo? I don't know.
I feel like it may make me question it more. Like, I understand what you're saying if I continually have to do that, but that may make it so that I decide maybe I shouldn't be running those type of things that continually ask me for elevation like that. Maybe I should have those in a virtual context instead.
Yeah. We should all revisit our practices, even if we've been set in them for some time. It's always good to review it.
And I've been looking at moving to the Cubes OS because I need to format my host machine fairly soon, and I've been saying that a lot recently, so I'm probably going to do it soon. But I've been considering going to Cubes OS, which is designed specifically for the virtualization compartmentalization stuff. So I'm already doing that on Windows. Having a host that's hardened and secured for that nature might actually be better for me. I guess the one thing that's holding me back is games and easy access to them. So I just might make that move and see where it goes, how it plays out.
Yeah. Cube, I'd love a report on that. I haven't played around with that yet, so I'd love to hear your firsthand experience. You do tend to jump the gun, usually to jump into things a little bit earlier than I do, which I love learning from your mistakes sometimes. But yeah, let us all know.
All right. Well, speaking of all of that security stuff, I do want to post one last link here for today. Apparently, there is now macOS ransomware. It's called Patcher, and it locks data for good. No way to recover your files. Looks like it's coming with Mac Juarez style sites. So if you are downloading programs and trying to circumvent paying for them, you're at the highest risk for getting this. And currently there's no way to decrypt it except for paying the Bitcoin, it looks like.
Yeah. Is that the absolute first one? Is that the first one in the wild? I feel like that.
I don't know if it's the absolute first one, but it's the first one that's gained major coverage that I've seen. I think the other ones might have been like precursor or scamware kind of things where they say they encrypted things, but they didn't actually. They just locked the screens or something like that. But
Bleeping Computer has been following a large number of Android ransomwares, as well. So yeah, the ransomware is so profitable for the criminals out there that there is not a single platform, I don't think, that they're willing to reach their hands to.
There's one of the Android ransomwares that ask you to speak the unlock code.
That's interesting, and then steal your voice print and then use that for some nefarious purpose as well. There's been some really bad ones. I was following. Are you done with that?
Yeah.
I was following something, and I like retro gaming. Obviously, I never had as much activity on the Super Nintendo as I did on the original Nintendo. But did we cover this? I felt like it was a big story, but I feel like we may have not discussed it. There were a large number of Super Nintendo games that were lost in the mail. They were sent via UPS from
we briefly mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're going to a place that tries to preserve games.
Exactly. It was for preservation, and it was a large shipment of games. And this would basically, the guy when it was lost, he said, "This is the end. We can't move forward with the preservation project. This is, And of course, the guy that sent him the whole swath of games, the 100 games or whatever it was, several hundred, I think it was, but. He was obviously pissed too, because he probably spent a good bit of time and money collecting all of that, and was collaborating with this guy to get that project complete. At any rate, an update on it, a good update, a positive update. It looks like there was it was found in an Atlanta shipping center where I guess things that get lost go, and they actually would have auctioned it off if nobody had claimed it. But because he took such good pictures, and it was well documented, the exact, it wasn't just random games. He knew what the guy had sent them, and they both were, again, they were preserving, so ostensibly they would have the best visual documentation and everything else associated with all of these. They were able to find it and get it back, and it was roughly $10,000 worth of SNES games. So I was really happy to read that story.
Well, that is a good one to leave off on. So cool deal. Well, that is going to be it for today's show, I think. We are trying the new format of 30 minutes, and again, we are mainly here to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services. So if you do have any of those and want to speak to us directly about them, you can join us next Tuesday at 10 a.m. for our 30-minute show then, and we'll be more than happy to focus on those type of questions during that time. Otherwise, you can always contact our support via the various means on our website, and we do definitely appreciate everyone's participation. Thanks, Phoenix, for all the interesting links and stuff to talk about. And we hope that this new format works out better for some people. So thanks, everybody, and we will see you again on Tuesday, I guess.
Bye, internets.
On out. Rakta.
Good evening, everybody.